Hi, this is a new Quran video, and I will try to share my explanation to the Ahzab Surah 5th verse, the verse 53, and unbelievers questions the surah that why prophets, why we cannot marry with prophets' wife, other people at that time after he died. So this is the question, why it is universal law. And first of all, it is important to know that Ahzab Surah is one of the surah that is talking about Prophet's life. And at that time, important thing is the life is still going on, and these stories are also related to the current time. I mean, like they are important at that area, and it can change the meaning later. This is a verse, and if something different happens in the future, they will interpret the surah differently. There is a likelihood that, for example, in one of the surah, and it says that Abu Lahab will not believe in God, and in reality, he didn't believe in God. So here, let's read the article. O believers, do not enter prophets, homes of the prophet without permission, and if invited for a meal, do not come too early and linger until the meal is ready. But if you are invited, then enter one time. Once you have eaten, then go on your way, and do not stay for casual talk. Such behavior is truly annoying to the Prophet, yet he is too shy to ask you to leave, but Allah is never shy of the truth. And when you believers ask his wives for something, ask them from behind a barrier. This is purer for your hearts and theirs, and it's not right for you to annoy the Messenger of Allah, nor ever marry his wives after him. This will certainly be a major offense in the sight of Allah. So Prophet has a very important role in God's message. So in the other surah, mentioning the other prophets, there is no so the message is actually conveyed message is about previous time. But here, so God says that, and God asked them to be loyal to the prophet's wife, to be loyal to him, and but in that case, if let's assume that prophet's wife is married to someone else, and then this verse after he is died, and this verse will not, because will not be valid because they are married to someone else. So to keep this verse universal, actually, God orders others not to marry his wives after him, and because this story should so they should always loyal to, so according to the story, so they cannot marry according to that rule. So that's why this is important. And another important thing is, and Prophet is the popular figure, and he is important. He has a role in the God's message. So that's why it is important. Let's assume that Prophet's wife married to someone else later, and they are reading this Quran together. And how they can think that this Quran is universal if they read together that the verses about Prophet's wife, so, and they cannot understand because it says once you have eaten, then go on your way. But more importantly, what important is right now they are already not alive. More importantly, we have to take lesson and see the important aspects in this verse. And the what important is, so it seems that Prophet has some popularity there, and people are visiting, and they would love to visit his house, and they are talking maybe a lot, and so it disturbs the Prophet. And so And then it can be, the example is here is that they shouldn't, so believer females shouldn't give the wrong message to the other married people. So this is the main message, and this is like a advice here. It's like keep, like it's like talking, do not talk like flirtatiously, or do not stay too long for talk. And this surah is generally about the social life, and there are other things that we can support this verse. Let's read it more about this. I wanted to show you the other things, like saddles in your homes, and do not display yourself as women did the day of prayer, Islamic ignorance, establish prayer, pay tax, alms tax, and obey Allah and His Messenger. Allah only intends to keep the causes of evil away from you and purify you completely. So this is, God says, do not be exhibitionists, do not just wear, do not show off people like before. So, and also do not be overly effeminate in speech with men, or those with sickness in their hearts may be tempted. Speak in a moderate tone. And another thing, so all wives of the Prophet, if any of you were commit a blatant misconduct, the punishment would be doubled for her. So this is about, so because I think this can also have a universal message. This is my interpretation, but if someone, for example, you're in marriage or not, if you are with good people and you are helping very good people like Prophet, and then the consequences will be best because you are being part of very good job. So remember the story of knowledgeable man, prophet like man, who he does things that are very good and they can only know it later. So this guy, and he was more knowledgeable than the prophet according to the story, and so let's assume that if someone is helping, and their reward will be doubled. Indeed, it will be or it will be increased because the person that they help person they is more important and it has more consequences. So another important thing, say to your wives, if you desire the life of this world and its luxury, then come, I will give you a suitable compensation for divorce and let you go graciously. So it is currently suitable to the our current time. Like it says that they have right to divorce. It is indeed so. And another verse here. So let's see. So we can read all the surah to find it. So that you can also read those verses. I'm like reading like all prophets, Allah, always be mindful of Allah and do not yield to the disbelievers and the hypocrites. Indeed, Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Allah doesn't place two hearts in any person's chest, nor does He regard your wives as unlawful for you, like your real mothers. So it is, even if you say if they are, nor does he regard your adopted children as your children, real children. So it's also important. These are only your baseless assertions, but Allah declares the truth. Later, we see that verse related to this. You regard your adopted children as your children. They are not real children. So it's important to say this because it's about like legal also, like social life, because it's important, and because so if someone adopts, it is indeed same, but not biologically, and it's about important because it determines marriage. Or so. It says, "Let your adopted children keep their family names. That is more just in the sight of Allah. But if you do not know their fathers, then they are simply your fellow believers and close associates. There is no blame on you for what you do by mistake, but only for what you do intentionally. Allah is all forgiving and most merciful." So it says that do not try to make them change their culture, change their selves. So it's not good to change them. If they change their name, it's like insult to them. Um, the Prophet has a stronger affinity to the believers than they do themselves, and his wives are their blood mothers, as ordained by Allah. Blood relatives are more entitled to inheritance than other believers and immigrants, unless you want to show kindness to your close associates through bequest. This is decreed in the record. And remember when we took a covenant from the prophets as well as from you, O Prophet, and from Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, son of Mary. We did take a solemn covenant from all of them, so that he may question these men of truth about their delivery of the truth, and he has prepared a painful punishment for the disbelievers. Believers, remember Allah's favor upon you when enemy forces came to besiege you in Medina. So we sent them again a bitter wind and forces you couldn't see, and Allah is all seeing of what you do. So they fight against the enemy, and God helps them, helps their, and it's like societal and community related. I protected your community, it means, I guess. Remember when they came at you from east and west, when your eyes grew wild in horror and your heart jumped into your throats, and you entertained conflicting thoughts about Allah. And then there are believers were put to the test and were violently shaking. And remember when the hypocrites and those with this sickness in their hearts said, Allah and His Messenger have promised us nothing but delusion. And remember one group of them said, O people of Yathrib, there is no point you staying here, so retreat. Another group of them asked the Prophet's permission to leave, saying our homes are vulnerable, while in fact they were not vulnerable. They only wished to flee, just escape, I guess. Had their city been sacked from all sides and they had been asked to abandon faith, they would have done so with little hesitation. So it's also important about society, marriage, and staying at the one city because they migrated from one city to another city and their connection has changed. Some people decided to go with them, some people decided not to. They had already pledged to Allah earlier never to turn their backs in retreat, and a pledge to Allah must be answered for. Say, O Prophet, fleeing will not benefit you if you try to escape a natural or violent death. If it is not your time, you will only be allowed to enjoyment for a little while. Ask them, Prophet, who can put you out of Allah's reach if He intends to harm you or show you mercy? They can never find any protector or helper besides Allah. And Allah knows well those among you who discourage others from fighting, saying secretly to their brothers, stay with us, and who themselves hardly take part in fighting. So it is important about the society, still about the fighting and going somewhere like changing, migrating. They are totally unwilling to assist you. When danger comes, you see them staring at you with their eyes rolling like someone in the throes of death. But once the danger is over, they slash you with razor-sharp tongues and worldly gains, and revenues for worldly gains. Such people haven't truly believed, and so Allah has rendered their deeds void, and that is easy for Allah. They still think that the enemy alliance has not yet withdrawn, and if the allies were to come again, the hypocrites would wish to be away in the desert among Arabs, nomadic Arabs, only asking for news about you believers, and if the hypocrites were in your midst, they would hardly take part in the fight. Indeed, in the Messenger of Allah, you have an excellent example for whoever has hope in Allah and the Last Day, and remembers Allah often. When the believers saw the enemy alliance, they said, this is what Allah and His Messenger had promised us. The promise of Allah and His Messenger has come true, and this only increased them in faith and submission. Among the believers are men who have proven true what they pledged to Allah. Some of them have fulfilled their pledge with their lives, others are waiting their turn, they have never changed their commitment in the least. It all happens so Allah may reward the faithful for their faithfulness and punish the hypocrites if He wills, or turn to them in mercy. Surely Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. And Allah drove back the disbelievers in their rage, totally empty-handed, and spared the believers from fighting, for Allah is all-powerful and mighty. And He brought down those from the people of Book who supported the enemy alliance from their own strongholds and cast horror into their hearts. You believers killed some and took others captive. He has also caused you to take over their lands and homes and wealth, as well as lands you haven't set yet foot on. And Allah is most capable of everything. O Prophet, say to your wives, so the societal and specific things. So this is important. So as I said in the beginning, and it says that if you desire the life of this world, in the story it uses this word, and it says, luxury then come, I will give you suitable compensation to divorce, and let you graciously. So that's why later it is not logical they marry, and if they marry, then it's like this surah is not universal at all. But if you desire Allah and His Messenger and the everlasting home of the hereafter, then surely Allah has prepared a great reward for those of you who do good. O wives of the Prophet, if any of you were committed to blatant misconduct, the punishment will be doubled so, and whomever you devotedly obeys Allah and His Messenger does good, we will grant her double the reward, and we have prepared for an honorable provision. So since they have doubled the reward, and it is also, so we can also say that God can ask them more, because at that time, another important point is, at that time they are still free to divorce. But God says after after He's dead, it's not logical them to marry. It's also another important factor. So Prophet is not forcing them, and his marriage seems very successful. O wives of the Prophet, you are not like any other woman. If you are mindful of Allah, then do not be overly effeminate. So I mentioned this. So So this is the last verse I want to mention. And remember, O Prophet, when you say to the one for whom Allah has done a favor and you too have done a favor, keep your wife and fear Allah, while concealing within yourself that Allah was going to reveal. And so you were considering the people, whereas Allah was more worthy of your consideration. So when Zayd totally lost interest in keeping his wife, we gave her to you in marriage so that there will be no blame on the believers for marrying the ex-wives of their adopted sons after their divorce. And Allah's command is totally binding. So first important thing here, so the important thing is, in the previously God said that the wife can, so Prophet is saying that, Prophet is saying that keep your wife and fear Allah. So there are different translations of this verse, and so you were considering the people, whereas Allah was more worthy of consideration. So Prophet says that keep your marriage, it's better for you, I guess, here, but God says that it is not good. So God says that do not lie, just if he has right to, or he or she, I'm not sure about the verse, but both, so free to divorce, and still free to marry with Prophet. So there are different things. So the important thing is, she is willing to marry with Prophet, and he is accepting to divorce. So, and then in this verse, everyone is happy. So it is not important that he adopted sons mentioned in the first, adopted or not. So it doesn't have any meaning, That's what I want to say. Anyway, so that is my interpretation. So there are more clear translations. So it's important to look all the translations, but I think the main so the basic meaning is, so there females are free to divorce and later free to marry someone else. So that's it. And it is not important who they marry. So that's it. And some pervert people seeing this they can interpret, after seeing this, they can interpret it like pervertly, but in fact Prophet has married a few people and probably less than average people there. I don't know about the numbers, but and his marriage were successful, and so that's it. Anyway, that's all I want to say, and if I'm wrong, forgive me, and always seek for the truth, and see you. So how can I close this?